nzambe nzela ya mwinda yende nzela ya bomoi Peuple nzambe tokonzeba nazalaka na fami nanga bakenda na tikala seboyeo soki nazalaka na baninga tende na bebakala bato basalisinga balakisi makasi ya bolingo tosala maso tokoki na kombo ya nzambe Peuple nzambe tokonzeba na mokili ata osali malamu bato bandima yo te otika moto na pasi azali kobelela iseliko naza na fiva motema mama elingi kotika ye banda okendeki wapi yo mama otiki nga na pasi nawe wapi amulu mama seri otiki nga na liwa banadi bayokani bongo bafami babebisi balingi ekolo oyo te topo aza na mbongo te krize Peuple nzambe tokonzemba
Tā, sākam. Ieņemam lūdzu vietas. Visi. Iesāksim ar nākamo 2 laimīgo izlozi, kas vinnēs 1 nedēļu darboties teikumā. Kopradas telpā teikums. Pirmos 2 mēs jau izlozējām. Tās nejaušā gadījumā gadījās māsas, bet šeit ir vēl kāds brāļi vai māsas vai māsa un brālis. Lai es reiz zinu, kuri nākamie varētu vinnēt. Un jūs visi jau esat uzvarētāji. Bet tik un tā mēs izvēlēsimies. Un tā laimīgais ir Karīna Priede. Jo, aplausī. Un otrs laimīgais mums ir, paņemsim pārmaiņas pēc īstu vizītkarti. Juris Juhnevits. Aplausī. Juris. Viss ir prom. Metam apakaļ. Labi. Bet vispārējie es ceru, ka telpas izskatās pietiekoši atraktīvas un... Kā lūdzu? Jā, starp citu, jūs varat arī droši nākt uz priekšu un būs labāk redzēt. Vieglāk būs uzdot jautājumus. Bet ievadot pēdējo noslēdzošo daļu par biohacking, izstāstīšu atkal mazu ievadu stāstiņu. Es 2015. gadā izdomāju, ka es gribētu aizbraukt uz Helsinkiem, kur Teemu Arina, kurš mums šodien runās, rīko Biohacking summit. Un tā kā dalības maksa bija diezgan liela, es izdomāju, ka es varētu pieteikties brīvprātīgajos un tikt uz pasākumu pa velti. Tas man bija tāds pirmais hacks. Man liekas, biļete maksa. How much is the ticket price for the Biohackers summit? Man tas izmaksāja pa velti. Es vēl varēju tikties ar visiem organizatoriem un dalībniekiem. Un tas ir tas, kā es nokļuvu vispār šajā vidē. Un kas bija interesanti, ko es redzēju dzīvajā šajā te pasākumā, ir kā vienai meitenei brīvprātīgā kārtā implantēja čipu rokā. Un čips palīdz, piemēram, atvērt durvis, kur ir parasti jāskanē kartiņa. Tur ir parolēm un visādākām citām lietām. Un daži teiks, nu jā, tas nav priekš manis, bet kaut kādā ziņā es gribētu teikt, ka biohakeri, par ko jūs varēsiet vairāk uzzināt no Tēmu, ir īstenībā katrs no mums kaut kādā ziņā. Ja jūs skaitiet soļus, piemēram, mobilo telefonu, ja, visticamāk jūs jau esat biohakeri. Ja kāds no jums iet saunā, pirtī, vai iet augstā ūdenī peldēties, tad kaut kādā ziņā jūs arī jau esat biohakeri. Es te parādīšu vienu mazu ierīcīti, lai vismaz būtu ar ierīcēm, bet kas nav implants. Tad es esmu, piemēram, atklājis priekš sevis ir tāda maza turbīna, kur iebāž degunā šādi te. Šādi iebāž degunā, un tas apmēram uzlabo elpošanas ar degunu, uzlabo skābekļa piegādi apmēram par 15–20%. Īpaši tas ir forši sportošanas laikā. Es to lietoju skrienot un spēlējot hokeju, bet es domāju, ka Tēmu šobrīd pastāstīs par to, kāda viņam ir rīki šobrīd virsū, ko viņš sevī mēra un tā tālāk. Var sakot, vārds Tēmu Arina, nopelniem bagātais biohakeris, kas jau ir 2. reizi Latvijā. Lūdzu, aplausi!
All right. I didn't understand a thing. I heard my name and biohacking, and then you put this ring on and sauna. That's when I was thinking I got. Yeah. So I'm going to go pretty fast. And if you have any questions at any point, just raise your hand. We have 1 hour here, and I want to cover as much ground as I can when it comes to better living through science, technology, and nature, which is biohacking, by the way. So my background is that I've been a technology entrepreneur for over half of my life. I started my first startup company when I was 16. I'm 35 now. I was very early on actually to the whole startup community and scene. I've been to the first co-working spaces. I've been actually helping some co-working spaces around the world to build up their concept. And I think these are crucial spaces for bringing people together and redesigning the way how we work in the future, for sure. And digital technology is kind of key when it comes to interaction today. And it was 2015, I received this award called Leonardo Award under the patronage of European Parliament and UNESCO under the title Humanity in Digitization. And it has been handed over to Wikipedia founder Jimmy Wales before me, and also MIT professor Sugata Mitra. So I've been looking at the intersection of man and machine for quite some time. And to me, if we think of technology, this body that you are carrying around is already a form of technology. And Marshall McLuhan, who is a media theorist in the 60s, he was looking at technologies as extensions of man. So a mobile phone is an extension of your ear. A car is an extension of your feet. And the internet is kind of an extension of or digital media in a way, is an extension of the human nervous system that connects all of us together. And in a way, we shape our tools, and then our tools shape us. So we are not inherently separated from the technology, but the technologies that we create are part of us. Just like a man who drives a bicycle is not separate from the bicycle, but it's one system that moves. Through choosing which technologies you use, you are influencing yourself as a system. So it used to be in an agricultural society, it was given. So for example, if you have a hammer, you're a blacksmith, or you have I don't know, something that you swing around on the field, then you're a farmer. Today, we also make decisions in terms of technology what we don't use. I don't have a car, for example, or let's say I'm not using a mobile phone. This is kind of a ridiculous statement, but this is what people said like 10, 15 years ago. Technology advances very quickly, and when it comes to things like, computers becoming part of us, literally, like implants, or we are putting technologies in our bodies, we we probably ridiculate these kind of ideas today, but maybe we will be, using ourselves these same technologies as much as we use mobile phones today in the future, and we don't see it anymore as strange or weird to do that. But if you think of it, computers have moved from our desks to our pockets, as mobile devices. And they have moved also on our skin, so like a smartwatch, or this ring, which is tracking a lot of things, which I'm going to tell you a little bit more about. But they can also move into our bodies. And if you think of, when you are born, let's say you get vaccinated, that is a type of technology that humans have created to hack our immune systems, so that when you contact a pathogen, a virus, your immune system is already trained to take action in that case. So that's a way to kind of modify the biological computer that is inside of us already. So maybe in the future we put nanobots into your bloodstream, and they take care of cancer cells before they turn into cancer. So that's kind of the relationship that we have with technology. I work with a medical doctor and a nutrition specialist. I'm a technology specialist. Olli is a doctor, and Jaakko is a nutritionist here. And we wrote the Biohackers Handbook. This is a work that's been going on for now 4 years, and it has 5 chapters, 5 areas of life that we go and hack. So there's exercise, there's nutrition, there's sleep, mind, and work. And we look at all of these as systems. So how can we see these things as systems through, let's say, physiological perspective? So in terms of exercise, what are the energy systems? What is the Krebs cycle? How do we produce ATP, energy? How does the mitochondria work in our cells? That's interesting as a system from exercise perspective if you want to perform. Now, if we think of work, then you would probably think of memory or concentration or completely different type of skill sets. If we are talking about nutrition, you would look at the functioning of your digestive system. If you look at sleep, you would look at the different stages through which you go through when you go to sleep. So then we go to the methods and tools that you can use then to influence these systems so that you can increase your performance or health or well-being. And in a way, the interventions that we do, and I was just talking to one of the organizers, and what is biohacking, and our host said that just like going to the cold water, cold thermogenesis, like going ice swimming, is a way to hack the largest organ in your body, which is your skin. And very few people do train this organ, because we spend most of our time indoors in tropics, tropical environments in a way. You have heated apartments, you have heated cars. You very little, kind of get contact with nature and the alteration of temperature. And if you do that, it activates genes that are related to longevity, and it shuts down inflammation. There's many benefits of doing, things like cold showers. So that's biohacking. It's an intervention through which you are influencing this biological computer in a way. By the way, there's going to be a lot of slides here, so you don't have to take photos or anything. You can get them from this address. I'm going to show it in the end. So biohack.to/TEIKUMS. and you can get these slides. But I'm going to show you the trailer of the book that we've been working on, which is not only a physical book. It's we have online webinars, and we distribute a lot of online content. We have the Biohakers podcast as well. But let's see if the audio works. I didn't test on it, but we'll see if it comes true. Go. So the way how we define biohacking, go on, thank you. The way how we define biohacking, it is just like computer hackers look at computer systems. How does this work? By the way, hacking is not a negative term. Cracking into something is. The media has transformed the word hacking into a negative thing, that is computer hackers who break into systems. But hacker is anyone who is interested in the intricate workings of systems. So you could be an astronomy hacker, you can be a biology hacker, you can be a geography hacker, you can be a biohacker. As a biohacker, I'm looking at how does this biological system work and how can I influence it in different ways. And the way how we look at it is kind of like, how can we achieve better living? Through our scientific understanding that we have, the technologies that we have today, and nature. We are not separate from our environments, as you can see soon. You are a complex system. When something breaks down and you go to a hospital, they look at, what's going on. Which system is it? Is it the nervous system? Is it the cardiovascular system? Is it the skeletal system? Where's the problem? And if you want to fix this, you have to go a little bit deeper into the micro level, or you have to go to the macro level to understand the bigger picture, kind of what led to this, and also how to prevent it in the future. So when you go deeper into your tissues, for example, what do we find? We find the atoms, we find the molecules that make out of your cells. And these things don't come from thin air. Well, maybe some vitamin D can be absorbed and so on. But in the end, you are what you eat. And you are not just what you eat, but you are also what those plants draw in through the root system, or what the animals were eating and feeding. So if you look at fish, for example, let's say salmon, which is kind of high in omega-3 oils. It's promoted as a health food. But if you feed the fish grains instead of what they eat in the sea, you have to color their flesh to make it red again, because it doesn't have the astaxanthin or something, so they put it into the feed. And in the end, you don't get that much omega-3 oils, but more omega-6, which comes from plant sources like grains. Because omega-3 oils, EPA-DHA, which is in fish, it resides in the very bottom of the food chain in phytoplankton. It comes from the sea up to krill, up to the small fish and, the salmon, which is a predator. So when we look at, the whole tree of life, we go to the very beginning of time on this planet, we see the bacterial soup, the primordial soup, kind of where the life emerged. And this soup is still in our bodies. It's in our digestive systems, it's in our skin, on our mucous membranes, everywhere. Actually, the number of microorganisms, bacteria, etc., viruses, fungus, all these things, they live in a symbiotic relationship with you, and they outnumber your own cells. So you have actually more bacteria in terms of number in your body than your individual cells. They're obviously smaller than your cells. And their DNA affects how you produce or use specific or absorb specific vitamins. And basically the microbiome, for example, in our guts is crucial for life. So if you destroy that with antibiotics and so on, and it doesn't grow back in an optimal manner, you can get allergies and all kinds of nutrient deficiencies and so on. So we live in a symbiotic relationship with our environments. And a good example also is just to look at the DNA code. Did you know that every one of you is 60% mushroom, you know, a portobello mushroom? Do we have mushrooms in our diets? Well, you should have, because mushrooms, because of their beta-glucans, they modulate our blood sugar levels, and they provoke our immune systems to produce more macrophages that eat away intruding pathogens. So some of the plants, some of the mushrooms, etc., in nature are kind of stressors to our body in a way that they make us more resilient. So you are a product of your environment. If you just destroy the environment, you can't survive. In the end, we are made out of star stuff, just like Carl Sagan said. You know, everything that's in your body comes from the stars, from collapsing stars. Well, as a biohacker, I'm a systems thinker. So through systems thinking, we can better understand how this works, and then we can, you know, get to the question of what would be the 20% that results in 80% of improvement, how we can optimize your performance, health, and well-being. In our DNA, we have code that sets, you know, the stage for replication. And the genes themselves that are given to you, only 30% of the DNA is active at a time. What influences gene expression, kind of like which programs we are running, is your environmental factors, stressors, food, etc. So that's called epigenetics. In your lifetime, you can switch on or switch off programs, how your body runs. So if you are deficient of specific micronutrients like iron, your body will, you know, start to use specific pathways to take that iron, let's say from your heart tissue or your liver tissue, weakening those organs by keeping you alive in short term with long-term consequences. So these are just simple examples how it works. There is biochemical messengers between our cells that are communicating at all times. There's electric activity in our nervous system. If I go for a date with a beautiful lady, and I get these butterflies in the stomach, it's communicating, my gut is communicating to my brain. And that's a, you know, practical example. If you have digestive issues, you know, it shuts down your brain. So we have this nervous system that is constantly sending all kinds of information back and forth. Now, we can tap into that data, we can tap into the bioinformatics through quantified self, which is basically, you know, quantifying what's going on. It's also a movement that started in 2007 in Silicon Valley. In 2009, Wired magazine, the technology magazine, released a cover story about, you know, group of people who are now using mobile technologies, etc., and all kinds of sensors to track themselves. So you can track all kinds of areas of your life. I go to Estonia on a you know, regular basis to do blood work, and I get, you know, more biomarkers tested than a cancer patient would do, and I do it, you know, every half a year. And I get this data, and then I can see the trends, you know, how things are moving, because one snapshot doesn't really make the big difference, but, you know, where the things are moving, and then how, you know, genetics, epigenetics, lifestyle factors influence what's going on there. So if I take genetics, for example, I know that I'm more likely to be vitamin D deficient because of genetic reasons, so I have to take 10 times more than other people. I'm predisposed for celiac disease. It's not diagnosed, but if I, you know, continue eating a little bit too much wheat products, I can trigger celiac disease later in life. I have this weakness. I don't have ApoE4 gene that results easily to high cholesterol levels if I have saturated fats. So I can eat, plenty of those. I can have a lot of egg yolks, no problem. We are all individuals, and to better understand like what's going on in your body, you have to do this work. And when it comes to different trackers, sensors that track what's going on in your body, I've used a lot of different apps, different tools. This is just like the tip of the iceberg of some of the things that I've done. So there's just examples of tools you can use to analyze your genetics. But right now, what I'm using is a ring that tracks my body temperature, my stress levels, my activity, the amount I sit, my recovery, all these things. It's kind of concentrated into this thing, and there is pretty much a revolution going on, or a lot of evolution going on in terms of sensors. They are becoming smaller and smaller. They almost will become like dust that you sprinkle on all kinds of things to make them intelligent. And many of those sensors are kind of very sensitive trackers that can sense movement. And this is what we have used in sports. Movement trackers and heart rate monitors and even sleep monitors are based on the same principles, same technology. But you have a lot of other things, like what I have in my finger right now is also something that measures my temperature also. So there's a lot of different trackers out there, and there is a lot of kind of development that has been going on into these tools in the last few decades, and they're becoming smaller and smaller and smaller, and they're becoming smarter and smarter and smarter. Instead of just telling you what your heart rate is right now, this thing is giving me every day kind of based on artificial intelligence and analyzing big data and comparing that to other people and all, my own past things. It's kind of coaching me. This morning it told me your sleep timing was late last night. Looking at your phone or computer may keep your brain stimulated. Try to unblock a few hours before bedtime. Okay. So we have moved from knowing yourself to the device knowing you. And this I find quite funny, because if you look at the trackers, what are they tracking? They're tracking basic principles of what it means to be a human. So it's actually like learning to be a child again. So you learn to walk, take enough steps. If you don't take enough steps, you sit too much, you are advised to walk around. Standing, there's posture trackers that vibrate if you get slouchy. There is even a fork that advises you how fast to eat, and it will vibrate if you are eating too fast. And there is another tool that helps you to breathe. If you are a bit stressed out, it kind of vibrates and helps you to kind of regulate your nervous system through breathing. And then there is, tools to track how much you drink, etc. So it's kind of basic things. But maybe it is that we need these tools to remind me how to be humans again. You've been sitting too much, too long, stand up. A simple example of what, an Apple Watch might do. So these things are becoming smaller and smaller, and it's more and more about software and algorithms and analytics that we can derive from there. And this ring is, this Finnish innovation, I'm from Finland, is quite phenomenal in terms of what kind of things it can track. It can actually, just this ring itself, it has been independently studied by a US university that it is 90% accurate compared to sonogram or whatever, what they use in sleep studies for recognizing the sleep onset and doing accurate measurements. Actually, this is the most accurate thing you can put into a hand. The wristbands are not as accurate as this ring. So these are becoming better and better, and there is a lot of different trackers that you can use and different apps that you can track your behavior and activity, and you can combine these into dashboards so that you get a dashboard of your life. How much you work in terms of using computers or mobile phones, what your heart rate throughout the day. If you do any kind of physical activity or visit different locations, places, steps, all these things can be put together. This is a pretty cool software called Gyroscope, and it visualizes, your life and day in different ways. Here is, for example, productive time versus unproductive time at computer, and here is how much you are working throughout the day, and all these things that are kind of beneficial for anyone who wants to work. And you can get your yearbook also, like a printed book that tells how your year was, like the main locations you visited, how you've been moving around throughout the year, let's say if you live in San Francisco, and so on. There is even a set of trackers called the Mother that takes care of you and your family, basically, if you can't take care of yourself. So here's one tool. In the end, what we are talking about here is behavior change, so changing your behavior for better. And you are what you repeat. What connects all great thinkers and philosophers and scientists is that they all have routines through which they run their lives. And some of the routines are beneficial to you, and some of the routines are detrimental and not so beneficial to you. So the question often what people ask, okay, what should I track, and is this useful for me? It depends what you have a problem with. If you don't sleep enough, you have sleeping issues, you just hang around at computer instead of going to sleep. Maybe you want to then start tracking your sleep. Or if you use too much computers, you may want to track how much you use different applications and for what reason, and if that's good for you. So it's always about starting from the things that you want to change, where tracking actually influences what you are tracking. So when I start to, if I don't take enough steps or walk, once you get an activity tracker, you're more likely to take the elevator, you're more likely to walk instead of taking the car. So it makes you conscious about that activity. So it's actually mindfulness of the present moment. It's actually helping you to become more aware of the patterns in your life. And as humans, we kind of know ourselves to a certain degree, and we probably know what's kind of been going on today. But if I ask you, like, how was your sleep this month compared to last month? Or how has your happiness been in this work on a daily basis compared to the last project you did? It's kind of fuzzy, and our memories make all kinds of mistakes all the time. So sometimes these tools can reveal things in your behavior to you that is kind of, okay, that's true. This is what I do. So I've tracked, for example, 24 hours. How much I spend sleeping, how much I spend at a computer, at the mobile device, or doing other activities, meeting friends and going for sports and so on. And it's surprisingly, when I noticed this, 1 quarter I'm sleeping, and then of the time that I'm awake, half of the time goes with technological tools. Now, if I ask myself when I'm at happiest, it's actually when I walk in the nature, when I meet friends. It's not when I use the computer. So I started, thinking like, how can I change this? Like, where I'm kind of getting the benefits of using modern technology, but limiting it to a degree that I can enjoy myself also. And here's just, some data of just using a laptop, that 76% of the time I'm productive. So this is called rescue time, that you can install a computer to get this information. On a mobile device, if you want to know every time you unlock your phone, and that kind of cumulatively tracks how much you use your phone every day, there is an app called Moment that you can use. I think there's another app called Instant that does the same thing, but it basically tracks every time you take open your phone. Now, if you want to change yourself, you start from your patterns of behavior. And one area where you may want to think about this is actually the time when you work. A lot of these activity trackers are for sports or leisure or lifestyle things, but maybe you want to bring these things into your work. And we did a project called Upgraded Workplace, where we tracked just about 40 different parameters of what's going on in an office environment: air quality, activity and sitting, posture, the state of your physical fitness and body, stress through heart rate variability, mind, concentration, a lot of different things, and sleep, etc. And we noticed that by architecting certain things in work, not touching how much you are working, but actually like touching things like air quality and light and posture, and what are you eating for lunch, or what kind of breaks you're having, how hydrated you keep yourself. By architecting that context of work, you can actually improve your mental performance, Also your mood, that you're not that stressed, even if you have the same load of work, you're less stressed doing it. And in the end of the week, you have energy on Friday to go out, with friends instead of collapsing on the sofa. And also, longevity markers like blood pressure, etc., goes down if you start to observe, your environment. So it's really, biohacking is also about hacking your environment. I'll go through a few things that you could do to hack your environment. And I like to sometimes compare biohacking to, becoming a Jedi in a way, so that you have this kind of innate understanding of the forces of nature and the universe, and that you can tap into it and you can use it to your benefit. So biohacking is a set of strategies, set of tools that you can use every day and also to become more conscious about all these small situations that you get yourself in throughout the day. I'll give you some examples. So sleep is essential for your immune system function, for your physical performance, for your cognitive function and health and well-being. If you don't sleep enough, all the markers that are related to modern chores like cardiovascular disease and diabetes and getting into accidents and all that, and inflammation, which drives is often underlying a lot of different degenerative diseases, are pronounced when you don't sleep enough. So it's a good thing to start from getting a proper night's sleep. Now we have been told that 7 to 8 hours is a good night's sleep. But actually, there's a sleep onset, how long time it takes for you to fall asleep. And some people, due to genetic reasons, they can get away with less sleep. But most of us, need at least 5 to 6, 7 cycles. So you go through 90-minute cycles. You go to light sleep, you go to deep sleep, you come back to light sleep, then you go to REM sleep. And in REM sleep, you are reorganizing memories that happen throughout the day. You are coding things from short-term memory to long-term memory. The more you learn, the more you work with computers, you do this cognitive work, the more your body will put you into REM sleep. And the more you are physically active, or you have a disease or something, you need more deep sleep. Your body will elevate the amount that you get deep sleep. Now, some people have sleeping disturbances and problems, and they sleep 7 to 8 hours. They are tired when they wake up. So sometimes tracking these things helps. And by the way, deep sleep is the most important part, because when you go to sleep, the lymphatic system, which is the waste removal system of the human body, it extends to the brain based on today's scientific understanding, and it pumps out all the metabolic byproducts, all the waste that has accumulated in your brain throughout the day. And if you don't get enough deep sleep, you risk accumulating a toxic protein called amyloid beta that is linked to what? Alzheimer's disease, exactly. So you want to sleep, and one way to compromise deep sleep is to drink more than 2 glasses of alcohol in the evening. Sorry, guys. So that's one thing, but there's many other things. If you smoke a lot of pot, you're not getting enough REM sleep, but you get a pronounced amount of deep sleep. So everything that we put into our bodies and how we stress ourselves is affecting things. Now there's the melatonin pathway. Some people take, yes please. Polyphasic sleep. So polyphasic sleep is this kind of superhuman sleeping pattern where you're sleeping like animals in nature. So you sleep only in 90-minute cycles, and then you wake up, you do some stuff, you go to sleep again, you sleep 90-minute cycles, and it requires you to go to sleep exactly when your kind of cycles, because the cycles actually continue throughout the day. Even if you're awake. So sometimes you feel a little bit drowsy and sometimes a little bit more elevated. So this theory goes that if you sleep in this polyphasic way, you get more hours into the day, more productive hours also, and you can sleep less. But it's very, very hard to get factored into modern life when everyone else is going from 8 to 4 and going to home, having these things. You should be like sleeping throughout the day, and you are awake throughout the night when everyone else is sleeping. So it's kind of like if you are solitary and you're not totally outside of society, it might be easy. I don't know anyone who's done that for a long period of time, and it's very hard to get into. It takes a few weeks to really adapt to it. Yes, please. Yeah, the circadian rhythm is another one. So I'm a bit skeptical if it's healthy for many, many reasons that we get into shortly. But if you look at just like the melatonin production pathway, some people take melatonin to fall asleep in the evening, but it's actually a better idea to support your body's capability of producing melatonin naturally. In the same pathway you see serotonin, and serotonin is linked to what? Yeah, I got it here. Serotonin molecule. It's feeling happy and have a nice mood and so on. So one of the key cofactors is tryptophan. Then you have B vitamins and vitamin C, folic acid, etc. that kind of leads into this pathway. And one of the highest sources of tryptophan in terms of plants is seaweeds, and in terms of meats like beef and game and cheese also has. But cheese also has tyramine in it that actually inhibits a little bit deep sleep. So you may want to think about what you're going to have. So chicken and turkey is high in tryptophan as well. Some people of us, due to genetic reasons, we have a pancreas that is more sensitive to the effects of melatonin. Melatonin doesn't affect only the brain, it also affects the pancreas. And pancreas produces, when you eat something sugary and your blood glucose goes up, what goes up also? What is released? Insulin. Yeah, energy goes up and insulin kicks in, and then it makes your blood sugar levels crash, and then you get a bit tired after the energy rush. So if you take melatonin supplementation and you are sensitive to its effects, it will prolong the effects of this insulin release inhibiting function. Why is the insulin inhibited? Well, when you go to sleep, you're going to sleep for 7-8 hours and not wake up to eat someone, right? But throughout the day, if you don't eat every 2 or 3 hours, you get a bit angry. So when you go to sleep, your body keeps the blood sugar level elevated by not releasing insulin. And one of the risk factors here is insulin sensitivity, diabetes. So if you prolong the effects of melatonin, and in the morning you have some orange juice, some porridge, whatever, you have a piece of bread, which increase your blood sugar levels, and then you have your pancreas is inhibiting insulin release, your blood sugar will stay dangerously elevated, and that's the risk factor for diabetes. So don't mess with nature without knowing what you're doing. So one idea here is to bring the dose down to, instead of taking 1 or 2 milligrams, you take 0.2, etc. But it's actually a good idea not to train your body to expect to get melatonin from the outside, because you can get tolerance building up there through that way as well. The body doesn't do anything unnecessary. It's very economic. If it's getting something from food, it's not going to produce it. I have a tracker that is under my bed sheet that tracks my nervous system also. So I'm not that interested in sleep time and REM and deep sleep, because I'm an entrepreneur. Sometimes I have deadlines and I'm flying around the planet. So I'm more interested in my nervous system, that I don't get sick, that my immune system works well, and I'm ready to do what I need to do. And that's the balance between sympathetic nervous system and parasympathetic nervous system activation. And with this device that detects from my heart rate when I'm sleeping and gets me all this data, it gives me an idea of how I'm loading my batteries or burning them out. And often when the week starts, the batteries burn out, and then you need recovery. You need to relax, not work, not to be in a sympathetic nervous system activated state. I will come back to the nervous system aspect a little bit later. If you are doing some activity here, for example, this co-working space that requires you to learn new things, or something that is very difficult for you, it's a good idea to take naps once in a while. So you take like 20-minute naps, restorative naps, power naps. It's a good idea because it helps you to consolidate the memories. You get more out of the work that you do by actually taking this type of break. You also increase parasympathetic nervous system activation, so you give your body the rest that it needs. Now, what I like to do sometimes, I have a cup of coffee just before taking the nap, because it takes time to really get into your bloodstream. So the moment when 20 minutes is up, the coffee basically also wakes me up, and I'm more productive afterwards. I also like to use noise-canceling headphones that basically block out all kinds of surrounding sounds. I use this on public transportation, airplanes, and all these things. It's also reducing the amount of stress that you're getting into, and etc. Now, looking at the circadian rhythm, things happen in the human body based on this biological clock. So light is one of the things that synchronize the clocks. There's other clocks there, but to talk about light a little bit, in the morning when the sun rises, you get very quickly these kind of short wavelengths of light, which is blue light or daylight. You want to get that early on in the morning because it resets your clock. And in the evening, the red wavelengths of light dominate. So in the evening, you get more of this kind of like sunset. It starts to dominate in these long wavelengths, and it tells your biology that it's night. It's time to start producing melatonin. Now, if you are indoors and you have these LED lights, or you're using a mobile device or a computer, you get this kind of spectrum out of this device. So you're basically shining an artificial sun on your face that tells you all the time that it's day. And that's the reason why you have sleeping problems maybe in the evening. So you want to limit your exposure to this type of pattern of light in the evening, and instead get more of this type of pattern where you get a good amount of red wavelengths of light in the evening. Now, the computer screens, often they cut out at this red wavelength, and they don't even go to infrared range. The old incandescent light bulbs, they actually go to the infrared range. That's why they generate heat. And infrared range of light is actually anti-inflammatory. It lowers inflammation in tissues. So for any kind of organisms, mammals, sunset is actually restorative to the human body. So you need these wavelengths of light. It triggers things in your body that are related to tissue repair. And if you're just, bombarding yourself with blue wavelengths of light, you're not getting that anti-inflammatory effect. Yes, please. Is it a hack? Oh, of course, yeah. I mean, probably everyone recognized this effect that if you turn on the TV or something in the evening, you get a little bit more alert suddenly, and that's partly because of the light that comes through. Now, what you can do is you can install on your phone night mode and use that in the evening. You can install an application of F-Lux that limits the amount of blue wavelength of light. You can also have programmable lights indoors, or you can have these cool glasses, and you can look like, I don't know, some rock star or something. And it also limits. And by the way, every one of you look like you've been on the beach. Okay, so you look pretty good now. Yeah. Yeah, I mean we have receptors for light throughout our body for sure, and there has been some studies of shining a flashlight on an armpit or something, and that seems to also inhibit the sleep quality and so on. So when it comes to your bedroom, you want to make sure it's dark as possible. There is no LEDs or anything like TV screens or whatever. Put your phone in another room. One hack, by the way, for this thing is pretty much like get an old-fashioned alarm clock and put your phone in another room. When you wake up, you don't wake up with the phone, because often when you wake up with the phone, you are an hour with the phone before eating breakfast or whatever. Do you recognize this? Yeah. And the same in the evening. You don't go to sleep because there is the Facebook timeline and there's all kinds of cool stuff coming out there all the time. So don't get into those loops. You don't want to get there, so put your phone somewhere else. And temperature is another one you want to control. That is a bit lower because your body goes to hibernation throughout night. The body temperature actually drops a little bit. So one way to do that is to take a cold shower in the evening and obviously use like a lower temperature. So maintain your circadian rhythm by getting the exposure to sunlight as quickly as you can, when you wake up. It's not as important to go to sleep at the regular pattern. It's more important to get at the regular pattern the morning light exposure. And then avoid alcohol more than 2 glasses, avoid some stimulants, and hydrate. Keep your body hydrated, but don't drink too much water. Now, when it comes to food and fuel, what would someone working on a field eat compared to someone who is working in front of their computers? Obviously, the activity and the requirements in your body are slightly different. The guy working on the field probably requires more glycogen on the muscle tissues, and the guy working on a computer requires a lot of like the byproducts that are required for producing neurotransmitters. So those are different things, and when you look in nature what you would want to eat, so someone who is working on a field requires a lot of energy, so that's why we have all these energy dense foods. We have wheat and we have potatoes and all that stuff. And now when someone is working on a computer, it requires a lot of different trace minerals and a lot of fats. The brain is made out of fats basically. So actually the garnish that we often throw as spices on our food should become more pronounced, bigger part of what we eat. And the way how I think about it is that you want to increase the nutrients per calorie. So it's not about macro, how much fats, sugars, protein. It's about micronutrients per calorie. So how many nutrients you really get per calorie. And when I travel, I don't control my breakfast that well, or lunch or dinner. So I carry sometimes. This is actually another Finnish product. So it has 29 different organic ingredients that are from nature, like nuts and blueberries and all these things, spinach, etc., concentrated into this powder. You mix it up. It's not a culinary experience, but it gives you in one go. It fulfills daily nutritional goals. Now, when it comes to energy levels throughout the day when you work, you want to control your blood sugar levels, and that's where you can select food items that have a lower glycemic index. This is something that diabetics have to follow very carefully, but for every one of us this is beneficial to follow what is the glycemic index, so how quickly it rises blood sugar levels. So when you eat something, it increases your blood sugar level, and then insulin spikes in, and if the blood sugar raises too fast, the insulin release will make the blood sugar drop, and then you get an energy crash, you get cravings, you get sleepy. If you eat too many calories, blood sugar spikes, you also store fat. So you want to stay, in between here, which is from 80 to 120 milligrams per deciliter to maintain stable blood sugar levels. Now, this is what diabetics look like. It's kind of chronically elevated. Here's a recommended level, optimal level, etc. So you can track some of these things. But, and I'm, by the way, I'm injecting myself next week with a 24-hour real-time glucose monitor. I don't have diabetes, but I'm interested in these things, so to figure out how different food items affect. Now, from research, there are some things that help you to stabilize blood sugar levels. So even if you eat the cake, you can get away with it. And one thing that I would do is, if I'm having a salad, I would sprinkle generously vinegar on it, because vinegar decreases glyconeogenesis and it stabilizes blood sugar levels. You would also want to use strong spices. Strong spices are great for blood sugar control. Cinnamon, for example, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon cuts the blood sugar raise by 30%. I often like to put it into my coffee 1 hour after I've been eating. So when the blood sugar raises, I take some coffee with cinnamon, and it kind of evens out things. You also want to maybe think about what type of wheat you are eating, because of the inclusion of beta-glucans can also stabilize blood sugar levels. And then there is medicinal mushrooms that are also very useful for that reason. So many of you probably know about shiitake, but there's another type of series of different mushrooms that help to balance out the blood sugar levels. Obviously, you can also have a diet and eat in a way that's kind of more balanced. Here's the bulletproof diet recommendation. So red is not good, and then green is better. And then there's also different protocols. Coffee is also good for balancing blood sugar levels, but some people are more sensitive to the effects of coffee. If you have the mutations in the CYP1A2 gene, you can get hypertension more easily. It's a cardiovascular disease and heart attack risk factor. for most of the people, that's only 30% of people. Rest of the people, 70% of you, coffee is actually cardiovascularly protective. It's actually helping you to prevent heart attack. So, but not the dose makes the poison. So like a few cups of coffee, not like 10 cups of coffee, okay? Not 10, 2. So you want to limit how much coffee you have, and also maybe get your genetics tested, because also this caffeine metabolism also affects the whole like enzyme system in the liver, how you metabolize medications and other things. Some of us are fast metabolizers, and some of us are slow metabolizers. Here's my cup of coffee that I like to do every morning. So I pretty much break every rule when it comes to coffee making, but it's a beverage that I've been turning into a medicinal cocktail that I'm kind of using to optimize my energy levels and get enough energy and prevent certain disease happening. If you're not a coffee person, tea is great. My favorite is matcha. 137 times the antioxidants of green tea concentrated into this powder. You mix it up with some coconut oil or something, put a little bit of vanilla in there. It's great. Turmeric is an anti-inflammatory root that is great also as a beverage instead of matcha. Now you can also try some other teas. This comes from Brazil, so yerba mate. It's not really a tea, it's not from tea plant, but it has caffeine, which is in coffee. It has theobromine, which is in chocolate. It has theophylline, which is in green tea, and it also has some saponins that have health benefits. You don't necessarily want to eat all the time. You should give your body once a week a little break, and the break would be 12 to 24-hour fast that you would go through, and that could be, for example, that you don't eat anything after lunch on Sunday, and the next time you eat is Monday morning or even Monday lunchtime. It's actually a good idea to skip breakfast once in a while. Why? Because then you reset your immune system. When you are not getting energy, there's not constantly some food going on in your body, then your body goes after damaged cells, damaged parts of your immune system cells, and recycles those as energy. And the moment when you eat, you get a rush of new cells that replace those. So you get stronger immune system also once a week, just letting your body rest. Now looking at your brain, 60% of your brain is fat. Yeah. Actually, when it comes to the insulin levels, is when you are fasting, your body gets into an alternative fuel source. So your cells can use glucose, which is sugars, or it can use ketones, which come from fat. And your body stores fats, and once you don't have food available, it basically activates the fat tissue for energy, and you burn fat also. And you move into ketosis, basically, and that can be also tested as well. And one of the effects of that also is you are giving a little break to your system, which actually leads to perhaps even reversing an early signs of diabetes. So you can actually reverse a pre-diabetic person by fasting. There is a bunch of studies that have done this in a controlled manner. Now, looking at your brain, it's 60% fat, and omega-3 oils are super important. I mentioned fish earlier, and DHA, 15 to 20% of the cerebral cortex is omega-3 oils, and also the retina, 30 to 60% is made out of this stuff. So when you sit in front of your computers, have some omega-3 oils. If you are not eating fish enough, take the capsules at least. And another thing that I would take for my retina is blueberries. Blueberries are high in anthocyanins and a bunch of different polyphenols, and they are very good for eye health. Lutein, astaxanthin, also what's in carrots, vitamin A. All these things are cofactors for the cells in your eyes. So someone who goes to the gym has a protein shake as a recovery drink. Someone sitting in front of their computer for 12 hours should have 200 grams of blueberries, okay? And some fish. Now, if you drink alcohol, you can also get away with it, not getting hangover, by just, hacking your metabolic pathways. So actually, alcohol is not that dangerous. It converts to acetaldehyde, and in the liver, glutathione converts it to vinegar and water, no problem. But the problem is that this thing burns out very quickly, and then you get liver damage. Bad news. So you want to actually keep up your glutathione levels, and one way to do it is to eat while you drink. So you would, keep on getting the amino acids that the body uses to produce more glutathione. Or you can take, directly the amino acid, what we are talking about, NAC, N-acetylcysteine, 200 milligrams per drink, and then it also burns out some B vitamins and other things. Well, you can't completely reverse the damaging effects of alcohol, but at least you can mitigate the damage that it's doing to your body. Another thing that causes damage to your body is sitting. You've been sitting for a while here. Now, I can tell you what's going on there. So this form of technology that I have here, chair, this is not a natural resting position for a human being. If you look at children, this is a natural resting position. It's the Slavic squat. Okay? Get back to your natural resting position. Many people can't even do that anymore, because when you sit, what happens is that the muscles here, I don't remember the name of it, but these things get shorter, and it actually causes a little bit of tension here, and it gets this anterior tilt. It tilts your pelvis forward, and it causes pressure on the discs on the lower back. And then that is not good, obviously, for discs. Hydration is, drinking enough water is also important from disc health perspective. But also the position in which you sit on the chair, also this kind of frontal leaning kind of position that you often do with a laptop, like the guy on the back. He's causing now almost double the pressure on his discs in his back. Now, there's another person there, like browsing his phone. So this creates 27 kilograms of extra pressure on the disc on the upper back. So you pretty much wreck your back by, using computers and mobile phones. And there's an old Chinese proverb which is, man is as old as his spine. And you should take care of that, and that's why yoga and all these things are great for reversing some of the damage that you do with too much sitting. So all the kind of like counter, just like leaning backwards is a very good kind of move. And then there's, opening up the hip area is extremely important. Another thing that happens from sitting and there's kind of like this kind of posture where your legs are kind of pointed outwards. And when you walk like this, it's causing a lot of biomechanical problems. So when you walk, kind of consciously keep your feet forward. It's a good exercise also. Now, air quality. Who thinks air quality here is great? I think it's actually pretty good. Why? There's some plants here, and in the lobby area there's also a lot of plants. I would recommend actually getting a little bit more of these plant walls here. There was this thing in front, next to the elevator. So at my office I have these plants, and I have basically the HEPA filter. So it's sucking the air through the root system of the plants, and it filters out all kinds of crap from the air, volatile organic compounds and all kinds of like particles and so on. So that's another good thing to look into. Best thing that I've got for my home is just like this regular HEPA filter. It costs a few €100 maybe at max, 150 or something. It's the best investment you can do to your own health, because if you don't have a filter, you become the filter. Okay, you are the filter, and that's not good. Bad indoor climate or bad air kills. It causes all kinds of respiratory problems. Now you want to get plants into your environment. NASA has studied different plants which are good for the health. And here's some examples. So they're not just for, that it's beautiful and creates kind of this kind of nice, unstructured kind of visual appeal to your space, but it's also good for your health because they purify air. That's another thing. Now, when you look at your working desks, etc., so you want to get like a standing desk. My favorite here is the standing stations here. I saw most of the people were on the other side sitting, and the other side was completely empty. So I would reverse that. I would be there where I can stand and change my posture. Why? because when you change your posture, you move around a little bit, you are activating your lymphatic system. The lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. The heart has a pump, but the lymphatic system does not, and that's for waste removal and hydration, etc. So you need to move your skeletal body to make this biological system here work optimally. Even if you go for the gym or a run, you are not reversing the negative effects of sitting. So people who are work in a bar, for example, they are throughout the day, they are metabolically active, and they might not go to the gym. They will have better life expectancy than someone who's sitting throughout the day and then running 2 times a week, or sitting throughout the day and then going for the gym for 2 times a week. So that's another thing. Also, it helps to balance blood sugar and lowers blood pressure. Yes. Saddle. Okay, so this is a chair which has kind of like it's like a saddle from horse riding, and this particular chair that I use, it has maybe 5 centimeters kind of there is like in the genital area there is no pressure basically, and so you are sitting on your sitting bones and not on your soft tissues. And when you sit, I'm a man, so there's a reason I have testicles. It's kind of keeping them cool, but when I sit on them, it's actually increasing the body temperature, which is not good. It's also increasing pressure on the soft tissues, and it increased prostate cancer risk by 60%. So sitting for men, not a good thing. Also for women, not a good thing. So you want to make sure your lymphatic system is running in an optimal manner. Stress kills, but stress is also a reason why you wake up in the morning. Stress management is completely learnable skill, and the key to it is to learn to control your nervous system. So you have this autonomous nervous system. It's kind of autonomous, it does things on its own, but there is one organ that you can influence at will. And can you guess what it is? Lungs, exactly. So through breathing, you can influence your autonomous nervous system activation, because the breathing rate, the breathing rate per minute is linked to your heart rate per minute. So when you breathe slowly out, slowly in, your heart rate goes down. And many of us go through our day, just like like this, and there's stale air, and we don't use our lungs fully, and we are not in relaxed state, and our heart rate goes up. Yes, please. Breathing through nose? Yes, from immune system perspective, definitely, because there's the small hairs in the nose, and actually humidity is important. So the air humidity should be about 40. Often indoors you get because of the air conditioning and so on, it lowers that. In airplanes it also drops to 20, and this leads to dehydration faster, and it also leads into that the hairs in your nose are not as good at capturing pathogens that get into your airways. There's probably other reasons for it, but that's not at least one. Now, looking at sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system activation, here's a typical day. You spend most of your time in fight or flight mode, so you're basically running around like a headless chicken, checking emails and going from meeting to another. When you have a break and you actually breathe normally, that's when you get this parasympathetic nervous system activation, and you can do it in a conscious manner so that you engage yourself in those breathing practices, and you can learn that through meditation or yoga or whatnot. You don't need to sit in a lotus position with some incense going on and some Asian kind of exotic music on the background. You can do it just right now. So you just take deep breaths, because if you don't, this is what happens. So you are like your nervous system goes on an overdrive. When you go to sleep, your body doesn't go to sleep. It thinks it needs to react to something. You get sleeping problems and all that stuff, and you lose your energy levels and your body resources. By the end of the week, you are ready for the grave. So you want to do it actively, and learning deep breathing is not hard. We can do it right now. So come with me. Inhalation. Hold it. Exhalation. Hold it. All right. You feel better? Yeah. It's magical, isn't it? One mindful breath before meetings, before making a serious decision, you get more blood flow into the prefrontal cortex. You're actually more creative also. You can get things done in a from a more relaxed state. There's also applications like Headspace that you can use. So when you do these things throughout the day, every time you have an opportunity, you close your eyes, you get some sensory deprivation. It's not about, picking up your phone and then checking email or Facebook timeline. It's about taking this mindful breath, closing your eyes or something, and then off you go for your day. And that's how you kind of load yourself throughout the day, and in the end you get also a good night's sleep. There's different tools and technologies you can also use to kind of hack this and work a little bit more on your breathing patterns, and also learn to kind of control your nervous system in real time. There is an application called HeartMath with an external device, and there is also Sweetbeat Live. With any kind of heart rate monitor, you can also practice what happens when your heart rate variability goes up and you get into a more relaxed state. And that's central and key if you want to be in the flow state. If you want to kick ass, this flow state where kind of time vanishes and you're intensely engaged in what you do. It's not too difficult, it's not too boring, it's kind of right in the sweet spot. Your breathing is kind of regular, you smile, all these things, get good amount of serotonin and norepinephrine, whatever. So that's the state where you get most things done, and you can actively get yourself into by kind of like just by breathing exercises. And this is what a lot of like professionals do subconsciously. A professional athlete uses their breathing throughout the exercise in an optimal manner. Someone playing the piano, if you look at a beginner, they're kind of holding their breath, they're a bit tensed, and they are moving their body with every kind of key. But once you see someone who is kind of like, got it really nailed down, they are breathing through the music. They are not playing each note, but they are playing the music. And that's also what happens to you. If you become good enough in your work, you become more relaxed doing it. And the moment when you activate too much your self-critical kind of, self-talk or chatter in your brain that is kind of telling you and judging you and all the time kind of commenting, you're gonna fail, that is also getting you out of that state, and it's not helping you with your performance. This is what they figured out when they studied people who are like, let's say, professional archers or golfers or whatever. What happens in that state when they are in the peak performance is they get higher activation of alpha brain waves, which are related to relaxation, almost the meditative state. And that's key. Slow yourself down a little bit. There's technologies you can use for biofeedback to train your brain and train yourself to get more easily into these states. Here's the Muse. And you can also use binaural beats. It's basically like soundscapes that are architected in a certain way that they increase those brain waves in your brain by helping your brain to synchronize to the sound. I use these kind of things like the iBrain wave with noise cancelling headphones when I'm traveling. Yes. I actually use both. So I use binaural beats and isochronic tones as well, and I also use white noise. Just like something, because when it comes to soundscapes, you probably noticed that it's quite relaxing to go to a forest where the leaves are kind of like producing their sound, or the river, or the waves hitting the coast, or the wind going on in the trees. When there's these kind of soundscapes that are not predictable from your brain perspective, you get more easily to a kind of dreamy, relaxed state. But immediately when there is a strong sound or there is a recognizable pattern, a sound that you have heard before, that's when your brain becomes active. So it's actually good to expose yourself sometimes to soundscapes that are completely unpredictable from your brain's perspective and are not like full of words or something that you can recognize. So if you get something from my presentation, it is that you are in a way a product of your environment, and you can hack your environment. You can hack the air, you can hack your posture, you can hack the food that you eat, you can hack all these things. And given a good hypothesis, good theories, some of those things will definitely work from your health perspective. And those have like physical manifestations directly in your brain as well. So the areas of the brain that are responsible for different things, the brain is plastic. It's called neuroplasticity. It can morph, and it will become better at what it does. So here's just example of different activities that you can get yourself into and which part of the brain you are training. And there is a part of the brain definitely which is related to intelligence. And in the center of the brain, the part hippocampus, the part that kind of connects left and right hemispheres and enables faster coordination of both left and right brain, that's what you can train through physical exercise, like that requires a lot of concentrated micro movements, like playing a violin or dancing or acrobatics or juggling, etc. Those are really good activities, and this is what Einstein did from early on. He was playing a violin, and he has a very, very well developed this part of the brain. So if you want to use your brain fully, it's not about sitting down and reading a lot of stuff on the internet. It's actually getting up, standing up to a sitting world, and doing complex physical tasks and things, because most of our brain is actually reserved for physical coordination. So the way how I see it is that biohacking is kind of like enabling you to see these tools that help you to change yourself. And just like in any cybernetic system, you have an input, you have a process, you have an output, and then you have the feedback loop through which the system learns, which is you, trial and error, and so on. The faster the feedback loops, the faster the learning. So the reason to use sometimes, activity trackers and journaling and all these things is actually to become more aware, shorten the feedback loops, become more aware of kind of how to fine-tune your activity from one to the next. So we are a way for the universe to see itself, like Carl Sagan has said. If any of this stuff is interesting to you, we are putting together this event, Biohackers Summit. It was last week in Stockholm. It's in 13th, 14th October. It's going to be in Helsinki. And that's where I'm kind of gathering all around the world better experts on all these areas that I spoke than I am. So you're most welcome. So with that, it's time for you to go and hack yourself. If you want to check these slides, there's a link, and I'm open for questions as long as they allow, and then I'm going to throw me out. So thank you. There's two gentlemen already in the back seat. So what's our schedule here?
Okay, I think thank you for your wealth of knowledge, and it was perfect. I think we have time for 2 audience questions. But
yeah.
You'll be the next, but let me first ask you one thing.
Sorry, one only.
And
no,
let's
3.
I will kind of represent the whole audience, because for me, most of the stuff is not new, but for very many people, I guess it's like a huge pile of gadgets and things like that. So what would you suggest? Where would one start? What would be the easiest steps to start biohack oneself?
Yeah,
where do you see the most errors?
Like I said early in my presentation, start with the things that you have a challenge with. If you think that you are not eating a proper diet on a regular basis, maybe make a food journal. If you are not active enough, maybe start tracking your activity. If you don't sleep enough, start from your sleep. Probably the easiest thing to just like experiment and try some of these apps is to download from the App Store an app called Sleep Cycle or Sleep Time, and it's basically uses your accelerometer from your phone. You don't need to invest in any devices or anything, and you can start tracking how much you sleep and how much you spend in some of these deeper stages of sleep, and that can be quite revealing on its own.
Is an area where you put the most focus on right now?
I put a lot of focus on recovery, so I'm not that interested in kind of journaling my life. I'm tracking everything that I can without my kind of conscious participation. So that's why my sleep tracker recognizes from my heart rate when I'm on the bed, and it stops tracking when I get out of it. That's the MFit. My phone, I have an application called Moves, and Moves tracks my running, public transportation, walking, all these things, and cycling automatically, so I don't have to press a button. So I like kind of that it happens automatically. This ring tracks a lot of things like the nervous system and body temperature and all that stuff. So I tried to gather this, and I saw the gyroscope earlier. So it's kind of a system through which I visualize what's going on in a big picture. So I like this kind of big picture kind of things that I can get out of my data. But when I'm actively changing something, I'm tracking that. And one thing that I like to use at this point of time is an application called Way of Life. And it's something where you have kind of a running to-do list, which is the same to-do list for every day. And what kind of items do I have there is, for example, don't look at the phone before breakfast. So I'm actively hacking that. Also, another thing that I have there is, go to sauna or, cold water. So that's one thing that I want to have more in my day than maybe now. So it's kind of like, it's a good idea to start tracking something you want to do more or do less. Because the more conscious you become of it, the easier it becomes also to change it. First, you have to accept for yourself, what you are up to, And we are procrastinating, and we are, not necessarily always honest with ourselves. All right, two guys in the back. Yeah, go ahead.
So the first question is, you said about the genetic testing. I know there is a bit of like, for microbiome testing, there's few companies that do it, but they're very contrasting to each other. So I'm kind of curious, what do you think about genetic testing? And are there some places that are like more accurate than others, or is it very accurate in all the places, and where do you start with it?
Yeah, so microbiome testing, there's uBiome and there's WellBiome and all these, and it's kind of like still emerging field, as you said. But when it comes to genetic testing, the most accessible thing probably to consumers is 23andMe, which is a US-based company, but they also ship it in Europe. It's less than $100, and you get like not the full genome, but a major part of the snippets that are meaningful. And you can then take the data from 23andMe. It mainly provides out-of-the-box kind of ancestral data. The way how you give the sample is through a spit sample, so it's pretty easy to send it through mail. But you get your genetics, you can download it, and you can then upload that data to some other service. And there is a lot of different services that can then give you deeper health insights, or if you're interested in exercise or nutrition, there is services that are specifically designed to look at your genetics and help you with nutrition or exercise. There's a UK-based company called DNA Fit that does it, and there is also a kind of I don't know, maybe it's a university project, but it's called Prometheus. It's basically €5. You upload your data, and you get this, more data that you can deal with. And but genetic testing on its own, the accuracy is very accurate. They tested, 23andMe and accuracy, and it's actually sometimes more accurate than a lot of like hospital labs and so on, because they do it at scale. But obviously you are giving the sample, so there might be some risks there. Maybe it's your dog that gave it, I don't know. But there's a Nordic laboratories who does also like genetic testing, and they are pretty serious, seem to be pretty serious about this. So, I mean, there's a bunch of companies coming out, and it's not that expensive anyway to get some idea what's going on. Next question, guy in front.
I could
Okay.
0.5 question to him.
Okay, yeah.
Will there be possibility to get your presentation? Because I wrote something, but it was quite fast, the pace in which you
The
told
link
everything.
over there.
Oh, okay.
Cool, yeah.
Okay, one more question, please.
Yes.
Hello. Sorry to say so, but I have one question. I see a risk that in 5-10 years you can become a biomechanic robot. And I ask it seriously. I see it so, and I see it what you will think, what machine will say you. You will do what machine will say you. You will try to get emotions, what machines say what you need. And finally, if 1 week it's off, you are dead man. You don't have your instincts. You don't. It's blocked in 10 years.
I got it. Yeah.
And the
Teemu,
question is.
Teemu, you look like you've heard this question plenty of times.
So you have heard this question many times, I'm sure. So how these all things help you make yourself a better person, happier, just as a human being? You are depending on it so much.
Yeah. All right. So to answer that question, I start from the point of view that we create our tools and then our tools shape us. And the mastery of the tools is to get, to be in a place where you can abandon the tool. So if I use an EEG monitor that monitors my brain waves and helps me to, figure out how to get more into a Zen meditative state or a concentrated state, it serves me as a tool as long as, I'm through the training phase. And once I'm through it, I can abandon the tool. I can do it without the tool. The same applies for a lot of these things. They make you more aware kind of what's going on, and you don't need that much it anymore. When I had problems sleeping, I didn't sleep long enough. I was too active, my mind was too active and all these things. Tracking my sleep was the key then to kind of becoming aware of it and hacking my sleep. Now I don't need to track sleep anymore. It's not the biggest problem for me. When it comes to senses, obviously we are already in a world where we don't listen to our senses. A food maybe causes a reaction, but you don't trust it because you don't trust your own instincts because it's not diagnosed, allergy or something. So we have disconnected already from what nature is telling us, what our own nature is telling us, but we are not listening. We're not getting the message either. And as we go forward, the algorithms are controlling our world now. So what you see on Facebook is controlled by algorithms that are based on what you liked and shared, etc., and what your friends like. And this will get worse and worse. There's artificial intelligence coming along that's kind of augmenting human capability. We're getting these headsets that are enriching, they're telling almost before we think ourselves, if our consumer decision is going to be, compatible with our, whatever ethical values or profile or consumer patterns or whatnot. So obviously you are right, you're absolutely right. But what I'm doing, I'm practicing, as much as I'm practicing time, my other leg is in technological world, my other leg is in nature. So I spend every year like 1 or 2 months completely disconnected from technology. I'm practicing survival skills. I'm practicing foraging. I actually, this time of the year, every one of you should call yourself sick and go to the nature because there is free food growing everywhere, nettles, dandelions, etc., which is much higher in nutrition than anything you can buy from the shop. So I'm living with nature, I'm working with technology, but I recognize that, technology on its own doesn't have a purpose. We give it the purpose. And, I'm not trying to get myself to slavery with technology. I think tools are, they are very good tools, okay? They are not very good hosts or, I don't think you are separate from the technology in a perspective where technology can take care of you for the rest of your life. I think our society wants to build, whatever, care robots and, all these things so that we can at mass scale run the society and we don't need human interaction anymore when you get sick, etc. But I think what technology actually does, it allows us more human contact. So when a doctor doesn't need to spend a lot of time looking at the X-ray images, doesn't need to basically be someone who is writing things down, but can be more present because AI is taking care of some things, then we have more time for each other. So technology is something that increases productivity. It's productive. Humans are not productive. You're not productive at all. So you should offload the things to technology that enables productivity, and then you should allow yourself the things that basically amplify creativity, which is what technology is not very good at right now. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Teemu, for your answer. And it was perfect because we've come a full circle, because we started today with a subject about motivation and happiness. So I'm happy to announce this thing over with the same issue. So thank you very much, everyone. Paldies visiem, ka jūs atnācāt. Paldies teikumam. Visiem jums aplausi. Aiziet. Paldies teikumam par superīgo pasākumu un ļoti daudz vērtīgas informācijas un ziņām. Un nobeigumā es gribēju pateikt, ka ir vēl viena daļa, kas varbūt nav tik oficiāla, bet lejā mana telpa Eko Catering restorānā šobrīd ir var uz glāzi vīna un, kā moderni saka, panetvorkot un apmainīties vizītkartēm, parunāties. Un pēc tam 7:00 vēl šeit augšā ir neformāls vakars. Tā kā visi laipni aicināti, vakars vēl nebeidzās un jauku jums foršu vakaru.